Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I am one of your hosts, Sami Kinnison, here with Angela Belford. And today, this very special episode 150 is releasing on Christmas Eve. Woo! I hope you guys are having a
Yay.
great day. Maybe listening to this while escaping some family, having a little me time, doing whatever it is you do. Or maybe you're listening to it later, and that's totally fine as well. But today, we're going to have, I don't know, an unpacking of an idea. It's not really a debate. We have this thought and this concept that we've been chatting about, but neither of us can really land on what's the air quotes right way, while also recognizing that there is no right way. And we just thought we'd unpack it with you all and let you in on the dinner time cocktail conversations that Angela and I have about big ideas. So, Angela, why don't you tee us up? What are we talking about today?
Well, it's this idea that it is the holiday season, and many people kind of checked out weeks ago that this
Probably.
isn't the holiday season, it's the month season. And I totally get it from people that are like, there's corporate mandates that say use it or lose it. So if you don't use your PTO, like you're going to lose it, and they have gone hard all year long, and it's like this is the time that they restore and refresh. And if that's the concept, love it. Super proud of you. I think this sparked me because I see all these memes that are like these decision trees of like, is this problem, you know, urgent? Can I solve it by myself? Okay, I'll tackle it. If it's not urgent and I can't solve it myself, it's a 2025 problem. And I started seeing those weeks ago. It made me
Yeah.
laugh. Somebody said, let's talk about that after the holidays. I started saying that in June. And so I'm just like, that's so interesting. And so I, on the other hand, um, took my Christmas vacation several days early in this month. I went to New York City. I had a great time, and probably one of the best domestic trips we've ever taken. And so I come back from that trip and I'm like charged up and ready to work and to like finish strong, but not from a hustly culture standpoint, but from just a like, yeah, I feel good. And what I'm noticing about myself is ever since I started taking February's and I work remotely 3 or 4 days a week, and then I play on the weekends 3 days, at least 3 days every week, um, remotely, like somewhere hot, somewhere Central America or the Caribbean. Ever since I've done that, I'm noticing a different flow in my work, and I'm finding myself off season from when other people are, like, charged up going hard, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel I like this flow of this season better. So anyway, I'm just curious what other people, if they're being that conscious about flow. And so I know you have toddlers, and
Mhm.
I guess not toddlers and starting elementary this year. So you have a whole different thing that kind of mandates your schedule, that school calendar. And so would love to, especially since that school calendar is kind of newish. I mean, you've had it with the preschool, but not as long of a period. So how are you thinking about flow and work and things?
So, the flow at the holidays with small children is definitely, I don't have as much control over it as I would like, and I mean, we'll just take a little side caveat to say Sammy is on a journey of letting go of control of a lot of things. I think it really started with my perfectionist, recovery journey and noticing and finally acknowledging that that's about control. That's a newish concept for me to realize, which I know sounds so dumb because you say it out loud and you'd be like, oh, yeah, being a perfectionist is about control. And then it's like, oh, wait, but it is. And it's taken me a long time to actually embrace that. I've to achieve to get to that point in my recovery journey. How about that? Um,
I would say most things we have to recover from are related to control.
Right. And small children are really not very controllable. I don't know if you've ever met one before, but they even this morning I was trying to get uh my 2-year-old into his classroom and he goes, "No." I was like, "Peter, we have to go into class." And he goes, "I don't do it." And then he just like stands there. I was like, "I'm going to pick you up." "No, you're not." I'm like, "Yes, I am going to pick you up and put you in your class." And then he sits there and kind of pouts and goes, "I do it," and walks himself into class, and I was like, "Great, you won. You beat me. You decided to walk into class. You maintained the control over the situation." So, yeah, it's definitely an exercise in how do you let go of control all the time, and within that, there are a lot of things at the holidays that, like, I don't have control over, and so Henry is out of school for 2 weeks and a day this year, which was like, "Oh, so fun." I love figuring out childcare for 2 weeks and a day that doesn't blow the budget that you're already basically blowing with Christmas and all of the things. So, neato, mosquito. And I have the unfortunate privilege of having young grandparents who all still work. No one's retired yet. So, I don't have anybody to just like, "Oh, Dad, just go watch my kids." Um, Zero problems. Because of that, and the holiday parties and all of the things, it's hard. It's really hard. I think that what I'm noticing is that I am really tired this season and this month, and so I am wanting I desperately want to be able to give my all to work and to keep particularly I because I'm not in corporate anymore, I'm not building somebody else's business. I actually feel really passionate about building our business and growing these things. And all of a sudden, I'm now like, well, dang it, I don't have time. Like, I have all of these things that I have to do. It's really complicated. So I feel like we can appreciate that we're at two different spots in the journey. You're like, wow, look, I think I've identified my flow. And I'm like, wow, I think I've identified that my flow is not working and I don't know what to do with it. That's where I'm at in this journey within that. And I think that's okay though, because you have to identify the problem in order to be able to start resolving it.
Well, I want to
Yeah.
talk about the problem I have in it, which is I am awfully tempted to judge people. I mean, you talk about being control the control, and it is my greatest hope in life to be non-judgmental. It's absolutely impossible, honestly, because as humans, we are constantly assessing and assigning. And so I just go assigning, a value proposition to things. And so it is actually like super lot of work and a lot of self-control to be not judging of people, or at least at this stage for me it is. Maybe I'm just in a couple of situations where it is a little more out of my control, and so I'm wondering if I begin to notice some patterns where when I'm out of control, then I'm more judgy.
Mm.
Because there are some areas where I'm like, I don't know, you do you, boo. And I really could care less. And probably it's when it doesn't impact me that it's easier to not judge. I don't know.
Well, but I also wonder though, there are certain things that you have the lived experience. So you had small children and probably can have empathy, not judgment for me in having to navigate work, childcare, time off here at the end of the year. There's probably less like, "Oh man, I can't believe you didn't just like have it solved. Like, what's your problem?" You're like, "Oh man, like I remember those years. Like that was tough." Especially they're like, "Sammy, you only have one right now in elementary school. I had three that I had to figure out what to do with." And I don't know that um I think that there's certain areas that you can eat quickly jump to empathy to be like, nope, that is a hard problem. I have experienced that myself. Yep, you got to figure out, you got to do what you got to do kind of situation. On the other hand, you and I both struggle when somebody says, "I want to do this." And then the action, they say, "Here's my goal, here's my dream, here's what I want to happen." And then the things that they do don't move them in that direction is probably the kindest way to say that.
Well, and even more so, they complain about the things they have even if they don't set the goal. Oh, they're not even goal setting, but they complain about the things. And then you're like, "Uh, but you could make a different choice." And
Yeah.
so I'm like, I can be a lot more you do you boo unless you're complaining about your life. And then I have a whole lot more difficult time. Just I'm like, you okay, you can do whatever you want to do, but I don't need your complaining in my space. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm not the girl to come to. And yet also I have to be careful on that because then I don't want people to say, "Oh, Angela doesn't want to hear my problems." No, I do. There are people that have legitimate problems that they're like they are unsolvable. Like you just have to like be in this waiting game. There's nothing you can actually do to move the needle and you just need comfort and you need somebody to just share you want to share what's happening. I'm here for it. Like you just need comfort and there's nothing that is so frustrating or you're just having to just be patient in the waiting and I can be there for that. And that's such a nuance because then it's like I'm not trying to be toxic positivity, but do not, there's a really fun YouTube video where this girl has a nail in the middle of her
Oh,
forehead and and she is like wanting to talk about this nail and just how hard it is and how she tears up all of her sweaters and the guy is like it's probably the nail and she's like it's not the nail, quit trying to fix my problems, right? And it's I hate the video from the standpoint of it sounds like guys have the answer to our problems and girls don't. Um, and that we're ignoring our problems. But there's an element where I'm just like, golly, there are some times where it's like, just take the nail out.
well, so here, interestingly, let me yes and you. When we don't acknowledge when and it doesn't have to be every single person who has to acknowledge this, somebody, whether it's yourself or a trusted person, to say, "This is hard. This is harder than I expected. I wanted this to go differently. Yes, I want these things, but I didn't know it was gonna come with this."
Yeah.
If we don't acknowledge and validate whatever negative feeling is happening,
Yep.
it's really hard to step to go to the next step. And so then
Yes.
if you
Oh, that's good.
say, "I my work sucks right now and my boss is mean and I don't like having to do all these things." And somebody says, "Well, here are all the solutions to your problem." Great, but, like, also, I just need a half a second for somebody to
Right.
say, "That does
Yep.
suck." And it can be both. Yes, we can move into problem solving, but if everybody says, "Well, somebody else has it worse. Well, somebody else is getting fired. Or don't you
Yes.
wish that aren't you so glad that you have a job and you're not getting fired?" Or different
No.
things like that.
Yes.
When
Yes.
you
That's so good.
and so then because this happens, I think, unconsciously for a lot of people, they don't approach the conversation and say, "Hey, I really could use some validation for the struggle I'm having right now. Do you mind just sitting with me
Mhm.
in this hard feeling?" Pretty rarely do we begin a conversation with those exact words said out loud,
Right.
but we do begin conversations with that expectation
Yeah.
set in our head subconsciously. And so then we
Hmm.
get really frustrated when somebody doesn't hear us. And so then we're like, "No, you are not hearing my problem. Let me expand more." And it's like, "This is solvable. Just move on. Like, get over it." That makes it worse. And until you can say, "Hey, I see you. I see you. I see your problem. I see your struggle." It's really, really hard to get them to like, "Okay, great. Now let's talk about what are we gonna do about it?"
I am so glad because this is actually not about flow exactly, but I love it. I love where we're going because I have recently had the opportunity to have some hard situations that I just was like, I just need to get these words out of my mouth. Like they're bouncing in my head. And I had the opportunity to share the story with my youngest daughter, sister, Lexi. And what I discovered is that if you need somebody to like rage with you, like she is the best person to tell a story to. And I really have underestimated the value of this character trait that she has because I would like say, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, well, that's dumb because no, 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 no. And then I would be like, exactly. Thank you. And then I would say, and then I said this thing because, and she interrupted me to go, because blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can I just explain to these people? Even Lexi gets this. And then I go, well, I mean, Lex, you have had the benefit of, growing up for 20 years in a marketing family. So there
Yeah.
was stuff that she got. But what I learned is that I'm like, I've never listened to her stories with that kind of enthusiasm. She sat for an
Mm,
hour and listened to me just go on. And then she was like, well, what's that thing about? What? And I was just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, thank you so much. She goes, you feel heard and validated, don't you? And I'm like, I do. And I didn't even know I needed it. And I also have tried to be more I want to endeavor to be like that because then I had the opposite where somebody was listening to a positive story of mine and they were doing the exact same thing when I was telling them something good that had happened and they were like, "Oh, that's amazing!" Which I think I am pretty good at that about enthusing with people, but anyway, it was cool to have within a week's time somebody that I was having a hard situation and they were validating, and I was having a positive situation and they were validating. And I'm like, I want to be more like those two people because I want to be in it with people. And
mhm.
probably my like don't complain about something unless you're willing to do something is probably really bad attitude. And even I've had a friend that's had a rough work situation this year and I go, listen, just because I think that this is the right answer, it's easy for me to say that because I'm not the only person paying my mortgage. Like, as a single adult, you have to make very different choices than I do. And she goes, "Thank you for saying that. There's so many times people just want to, like, say, well, oh, just quit your job." And it's like, yeah, well, I'm it. I don't have a spouse, right? And so anyway, I do want to be like that. And I gotta find that nuanced line of how I can be in it with somebody and flow with them and also know that I have a low tolerance for just if I see you 3 months in a row and you're just going to keep complaining about the same thing. Now, I also like to hear the next episode in your drama. So, like, what's the latest with the terrible boss
Right.
episode, right?
Right.
I'm in for that. Like, so I don't know what that is, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, I love that trait about Lexi, and every now and again, I'm like, I I will catch myself because 'cause we'll get really mad about somebody, and she'll be like, "You know what? We should go take revenge. Like, let's go key their car. Let's go. Let's go." And she's like, "I'm gonna go fight them. Like, where they're like, what's happening?" And I'm like, "I'm here for it." And then I'm like, "We are joking, right? We're not actually gonna go do that." And she's like, "I mean, I guess we're joking if you wanna be joking." And I'm like, "No, come on, we can't do that. Like, we can't take out our
And then she
actual."
does the Barney Simpson wink.
Yes, and she'll be like, "Yeah, of course
From
we're
How I
joking."
Met Your Mother.
Wink, and
Wink.
you're like, "Stop. We're not keying anybody's car. That's not happening." I don't know why that's, like, the go-to method that we have of getting revenge
Because
is
Shania taught us. There's
was
a
it
whole song
Shania or
about
was
it.
it Carrie
Oh,
Underwood?
I don't know, whoever it was. Yeah, it probably was Carrie Underwood. There you
Anyway,
go.
I think that what's interesting about this, to pull out some thoughts, is that curiosity leads the way
Mm,
to be like, oh, and then what happened? Oh my gosh, and then what about this thing? And even when somebody is in that, like, ugh, this all sucks, be curious. You don't have to solve their problems. Help them ask questions. How did that make you
mm.
feel? If somebody is carrying on for months in a row about a problem, what's that about? Wonder what is help preventing you from taking action. I wonder why this in particular, this thing that they said, what about that rubs against you in the wrong way? Because I think for other people that might not hit so heavy. Is there something about your story, your life that makes that harder? Um, there's lots of ways that you can engage and anyway, maybe encourage. I just recently finished the book that you had recommended to me, Angela, Super Communicators. And I talk a lot
Mm.
about this. So if anybody's wanting to go dig in more, that's a great book to read on this. To circle us back, talking about
How
end of
how
year.
we are talking about end of year and people's workflow and my judgment. There you
Oh,
have it.
that's
That's
okay.
how those all tie together. Well, and, it's interesting because, we went through the whole season where there was this quiet quitting idea,
Mhm.
And quiet quitting was when, you only do what you're paid to do and you're not putting in overtime,
Yeah, well, it
right?
depends
But
on who if you are a corporation defining quiet quitting, it's when you've decided to stop trying and to stop caring about your job and to stop even putting in the effort, and this is just unacceptable. And when you're the person who is doing the quiet quitting, it means that I'm just gonna do the things that I have signed a contract that it says I'm going to do. I'm gonna work 8 to 5, I'm gonna do the tasks on my task list, and then I'm gonna go home, and that's about
right.
it. So,
Mhm.
crazy that people are just gonna do the job
Crazy.
that they have been contracted to do. Yeah,
Crazy town.
crazy.
Well, and so I think there is that judgment from an older generation of, not working hard enough, the hustle culture and all of those things. So hopefully this is helpful to others and just recognizing the fact that other people are different and other people's flow is different. And we're in a weird year with the Belford group this year. We typically are slower in December, so we kind of do some maintenance tasks. We were slow a lot of the year, and then we signed a bunch of new contracts at the end of October and November. And so we are really busy trying to get all these things done, which is great. And
Mhm.
also, I don't know, it's just strange kind of time.
Well,
So,
another concept that I wanted to sort of bring up within this sort of end of year time, I had a friend who shared about this on their LinkedIn recently. This idea of separation season, that some people at the holidays slow down and take a break and sit back. And a different approach could be to double down during that slow time to help
mm,
get momentum and move forward and move ahead. I like that idea. I like that concept that where other people are slowing down, you can keep going and that helps you keep momentum in your business. And I think that that is possible when you have regular rhythms of rest, when
mm,
you are resting as you go and not run, 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 and then you're like, "I'm out. I'm tired and I need 3 weeks to, like, not care about my
yeah.
job." If rest is not a part of your regular patterns, then yeah, it makes sense that you really need to, uh, completely unplug for a little bit. Where I would encourage is that seasons of rest and patterns of rest, rhythms of rest, think about that as maybe a 2025 goal as how am I going to better incorporate ongoing rest so that I don't have to completely burn out, completely exhaust myself before I take a moment? Is that I'm going to take 1 3-day weekend a month? Is that I'm going to actually take my lunch breaks? I don't know, whatever that might be. There are different ways to think about it. And I feel more interested in doubling down in this time as a business builder. A different episode for a different time, maybe, is that I, within the past week, finally decided, Sammy, you're an entrepreneur. Did you know that? And I was like, "Whoa, Sammy, I didn't know that." I didn't know. I actually had not claimed that as like an identity before until just recently. So for better or worse, I'm an entrepreneur and I want to build my business. And
Mhm.
that means that I can double down. You don't have you can keep that judgmental look there, and we'll put a pin in that for another conversation. Um,
This is why our YouTube channel is growing faster than our other audio channels because
right.
you get to see the judgment look.
The Angela looking at me like, "Oh, you're just now an entrepreneur?"
No, 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 no. We do need to put a pin in that one. What I was going to say is that one of the ways that is really important in whatever kind of business that you're building or building your career is networking. And oftentimes, the holidays, sometimes people are like, oh, everybody's too busy. And I will often ask people, hey, are you in town for the holidays? I see this very, very fruitful at the week of Thanksgiving if I'm in town. But I will say, are you in town for the holidays? Would love to take that opportunity to grab coffee. And if people don't have family in town, then it's a nice way to still be working. And I'm not so frenetic when I go and have coffee with somebody so that it can be a much more chill activity and not so task, and I find them to be very, very impactful and very rewarding too, like just fulfilling, because I'm not just so like, let's get in, let's get out, let's take care of our business. I find myself wanting to get to know people better. They're sharing holiday traditions more, they're sharing family situations more. So when it comes to building business or expanding your career, don't is sometimes doubling down and keeping momentum doesn't have to look like task, 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 task. This could be a chance. I probably told 4 people yesterday, I'm like, I'm done traveling for the holidays. So let's absolutely grab coffee, grab lunch, whatever, the next several weeks. But because I travel a lot, people assume, and so I have to be real straight. Like, no, 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 I'm good. Like, let's go. If you're in town, let's go. It's just more fun that way too.
It
It's
is.
a
Well,
fun way
and
to spend the holidays.
yeah, I think that if you then get into that, like, sometimes even if you are working, you're like, "Ah, it's 3 o'clock. Like, man, I kind of feel like calling it. Be like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go get my coffee at 3 o'clock. And then I'm still
Mhm.
working.
Right.
You're still contributing. You're still adding value in a way that doesn't
Mhm.
have to be sitting at your computer typing out all the things. So,
Yeah,
um,
for sure. I think
finding
that's
your
the most
own
important thing
flow.
is finding your flow. Yes, absolutely. There's a whole book that's written about it, and the I really the guy I have to look up how to say his name because it's a very Russian, Eastern European kind of name anyway, but there's a book about flow and we should talk about it sometime because I really
Yeah.
enjoyed the concept of it's different than happiness. It's a lot more about fulfillment. It's a lot more about figuring out how you work. And all of that goes back to what I would say is one of the key kind of tenets of our podcast. To be freaking awesome, you have to know yourself,
Mm,
and learning and noticing patterns about yourself and how you work and how you feel energized and how you rest. All of those things lead to being freaking awesome. Part of what I think made our trip to New York so great, some could say it's because it's the longest trip we've taken to New York City, but I would say it's because we very consciously said there are more things to do in the afternoon and evening. So we are going to consciously not even attempt to be anywhere before 11 a.m. And so we literally would try to catch the 11:15 train. And we didn't always make the 11:15 train. And so there was something that was very restorative about we could be out as late as we wanted to be out. We could do what we wanted to do, and we were going to make ourselves rest. I told somebody that I was sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night while I was there, which Fitbit says that's crap, but it felt like I was because I was just chillaxing. And so I'm learning, even in how I travel, that there is flow
mm,
for me. Now, I think I most nights didn't catch a train before 11 p.m. coming back to New Jersey.
yeah.
So it was a nice blend of that. But anyway, so finding your flow, knowing who you are, figuring out what works for you, and I talked about judging others, and I would say also not judging yourself are
Mm.
critical to this season, finishing well this year.
And, wasn't planning on plugging this, but if that's something that you feel like you could use some support in, we are actually launching a group in January very specifically to help people learn how to be confident in who they are and what they stand for, and in how to be in the world in a more secure and just really cozy feeling place. So if as Angela is saying all this, like know yourself, know what your flow is, and you're like, golly, I don't even know where to start. Send us an
Mhm.
email, reach out. We are not so inaccessible that we can't talk to you. So send us a note. We would love to connect and I'd love to talk more and see if that could be a really good fit for you because I would love for each and every one of you to go into or go through 2025 just knowing and feeling super intentional about who you are, what you stand for, and how you want to be in the world. Angela, any last thoughts? Any Christmas Eve thoughts?
No, I just want to reiterate that the story you told earlier about Peter, this is, the internet time. You did not make your kid go to
Oh,
school on Christmas Eve.
you're right. Yes, that didn't happen today. That happened 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Gotta love
no. Happy
internet time.
holidays. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you guys so much for being here. We hope you guys enjoyed this. Feel free to share with your family if you're hanging out with them this week or any week. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.